Welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions and a very special episode because I have a very special guest. First time on Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I have guested with him before on Grab a Stack of Rock with our good friend Mike Ladano, but this is the first time he's paying a visit to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. You may know him from his many years spent in Canadian hard rock metal institution Helix. He's done a lot of other stuff too, and give him a chance to tell you all about that. His name is Glen Gamble, but he goes by Archie. So, Archie, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions, man.
Thank you for having me, Tim. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and doing this. We were just talking before I started filming. That police shirt is very cool, and in a very Canadian way, he got it at Giant Tiger, folks. So if you like the looks, of Archie's shirt there.
Well, one of my favorite drummers. I figured since we're going to be talking about drums.
Oh, yeah, Stuart Copeland, yeah.
Fits me anymore, unfortunately. So
Yeah, good choice.
Copeland.
So the reason that Archie's here is that as this episode is airing today, it is the 1-year anniversary of the tragic passing of Helix drummer Greg Hinz, known to all as Fritz. Yeah. And of course, Fritz was Helix's drummer from No Rest for the Wicked, like big part of the Helix history, the Helix catalog.
The fame years, I call them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's part of that best known lineup. When you think of those classic Helix videos, you know, Fritz is the drummer, man. And so I reached out to Archie because I thought, well, yeah, he's had to play a lot of these songs in concert. And from a musician's point of view, I was curious if Archie could come up with his maybe favorite 10 songs, Helix songs, to play live, and what's cool and maybe what was complicated about them that you might the average listener might not realize is complicated, because I think there's kind of different ways you can have a song, you can listen to it and you can just kind of tell it's complicated, and it is, or maybe it's not as complicated as it sounds, or a lot of times something will sound quite simple and it's really not. So I wanted to pick Archie's brain, somebody that's had to play a lot of these songs live, to find out what his top picks would be for, I guess, Fritz's drum parts, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something. First of all, you know, for a fact that Fritz Tits, I just call him Tits. I think he would appreciate that humor.
Yeah.
If you knew Fritz at all, me making a Freudian slip and calling him Tits, I think he would have laughed at that.
So he'd love it. He'd love it.
Fritz was a technical drummer. He had a very, very good chops, as we call them, rudiments. And interesting thing to note is that he played traditional grip, which means the stick was held like this.
Yeah, he held them like right this instead of
between these two between fingers like this.
Yeah.
So the thing with that was that's from a marching band background.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if Fritz had a marching band background. Present Helix drummer Jamie Constant does. He plays a lot like Fritz. They were close. We could talk about that later, but Fritz was a mentor to Jamie. But I do know that Fritz worked hard on his chops. Like, practiced his rudiments, single stroke, double stroke roll, paradiddles, triplets, all these things. He was very technically accomplished, which a lot of hard rock drummers weren't, myself included. I'm a pretty meat and potatoes guy. So he brought that to the table, which also gave him a unique sound. So did you want me to start off with the?
Yeah. And it's very true. Like, you listen to those Helix albums and any other drum track, like, you could listen to the drum tracks a lot of the times and you go, I know what song that is.
Yeah.
Because what he brings to it.
Well, I mean, look at Rock You. We'll get to Rock You, but that's one of them. It starts with
yeah, it's a signature, right?
And actually, on that connective tissue between the two things, the first one I have that I picked was "Gimme Gimme Good Lovin'" which was a big single off of "Forgive Me If I Forget the album."
Off the Razor's Edge.
Thank you. So I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but that's a cover song by a band called Crazy Elephant.
Crazy Elephant, yep.
So if you listen to the Crazy Elephant version, it just goes straight in to the rhythm section, the bass drums, rhythm guitar playing straight right away. I really like what Helix did with that song because
hi-hats.
So it starts off with Fritz on the hi-hat, playing like 16th notes, right?
Yeah.
With two hands.
Yeah.
Like, I am almost like triplets, but I'm not sure. Anyway, that's not on the original. So that sounds to me like, I don't know for sure, but it sounds to me like something he would have come up with. It may have been the producer, it might have been one of the guys in the band, but and then there's that amazing, Jordan
finger picked guitar, right?
guitar part.
Yeah.
Which is, an Eddie Van Halen thing, the volume swell. So you take the volume, you pull it off, and you compress the fingers of the chord on the neck. And you roll the volume off so you don't hear the attack. All you hear is the note.
Yeah.
It sounds like a keyboard.
It's very percussive.
Right there, off the hop. The song starts with Fritz. What a creative approach they took to that song. And the arrangement of it, they really took the Crazy Elephant song apart from and rebuilt it from the bottom. And a big part of that is Fritz's parts. He really knew how to introduce a part going into another part. Like if we're going into the chorus, gotta understand, baby, I'm your man. He was like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Give me good love. And he did a big drum fill, a triple on the toms, then a slam on the snare. Chef's kiss. It was a perfect way to bring in the chorus in a hard rock version. So he was a very musical drummer. So that song, in terms of originality, and they took someone else's work and completely rebuffed it and rebuilt it from the ground up, and did an amazing job, especially Fritz.
And it also the intro with the hi-hats and that's the very percussive guitar part works so well because I'm old school. To me, like it's the first song on side 2, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
You flip that, I listen to that album on my Walkman a lot. You flip it over. Okay, what's side 2 going to sound like?
The action going.
Oh, what's this?
And they tie together, those two parts tie together really well because the guitar part is very percussive.
Yeah.
It just got a real good groove to it. It's almost like a disco thing, but I think that's a good way. Like it's a danceable push.
I was going to say because really even when that kicks in, the bass is almost. It's got that disco feel because it's an octave thing, right? It's like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, you know your music. You know what you're talking about, man. Exactly, right? Which gave it a dance, or let's say not dance, but commercial edge.
Yeah, it's catchy. Like it's even before the song starts. I didn't know that was a cover. It's got hooks that aren't vocal hooks, and that's a really cool thing.
Harmonies, they were great. Their arrangements really good. Now, a lot of that too, you have to give credit sometimes to the producers, right? But they were just talented musicians. That came from playing, 3-4 sets a night, every night, 50 or 6 nights a week, right? But yeah, absolutely. Tom Trumuth produced a lot of those records. He did a great job on the stuff too. I've worked with Tom. Tom produced my band, The Joys, as well. And him and I, he really works for the rhythm section. Well, he's a good producer. But yeah, and I can't say enough good things about that one for sure.
Yeah. So. That's a good choice, and that's really good explanation of what makes it stand out from just being a straight up cover of the Crazy Elephant thing. And Helix did really good. They picked really good songs to cover.
Yeah.
They made them their own.
It was a hidden gem. I think that one might have been. I'm going on a branch here. On a limb to say this, but it might have been Bill Sipes' idea. I think I remember Brian telling me that Bill Sipes their manager was a musician as well, and he I think had played that song in previous bands, and it was a hit, but it wasn't a massive hit. And he said, that's just sitting waiting for someone to. Kind of like what Quiet Riot did with "Come On, Feel the Noise," which was a big hit in North America, but they needed it to a big hit. So, whoever was responsible, a great arrangement, and Fritz, great parts, and he was incredible on that song. So there's one,
Yeah, no, that's a good start. Give me good lovin' from Walking Razor's Edge. So, what's your next choice for a cool Fritz drum part?
Yeah, I'm mostly old school on this list, but the song "Animal House."
Okay, yeah, it's a shuffle.
Yeah, good. Like a shuffle feel to it. But what I like about that is that Fritz had a unique way of. He would emphasize and push and pull unique parts I wouldn't necessarily think of, you know. And he did it a lot more live. Like in the studio, you're under the constraints of thinking, you know, the producers, you know, tight rein on the drums, the rhythm section. They're thinking about possible radio play and blah blah. So, but live you can do whatever you want. There's no one there breathing down your neck, right? And Fritz had this ability to find a little spot and push it, like the chorus of that song, right? This place is an animal house. Once you're in, you'll never get out.
Yeah.
Emphasize that with it was like the China symbol or the splash symbol, something high and bright, or the bell of the ride. He would emphasize that never get out, which was something this guy did, Stuart Copeland.
Oh yeah.
Very much not a hard rock thing, but a fantastic thing, which made it so unique, because I never would have thought of that. And I try and come up with, as a drummer, when I do session work, I do try and come up with hooky, outside of the box drum parts. But it was just a natural thing for Fritz, because when I was learning the songs for the live show, he did them so much differently. I remember they sending me the board tapes when I first got the gig, the live board tapes. Like, he put so many different changes in that I just had to learn the album versions. I make them my own, because I'm saying this in a complimentary way. He was such a unique player that I never would have done him justice trying to be Fritz live. Just you know what? Play his parts the way they are on the record and honor him that way. That's what I did. You know what I mean? But yeah, Animal House is a good example of a good. That comes from the '70s influence too. In the '70s, hard rock shuffles were huge, right?
That's like a Deep Purple, Black Knight
bands, right?
Yeah.
So and he, you know, but then he put those little accents in there. There's a bunch of them in that song. That was
well, it's there's two things that come to mind when you first mentioned Animal House. How he comes into the song matching the riff. Down, 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 down.
Yep, and live we ended it that way too.
Yeah,
I think it's. I don't know if it's on the record. Well, on the record it goes boom, 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 boom. But live we had a whole thing where we had down, 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 boom, boom, boom. It was a big built-up ending based on that riff. But yeah, you're exactly right. Fritz did emphasize, like he came in on a. I would never have thought of that coming in like this. I would have just come in on the 1 or the 4, whatever, you know, like come in at the end of the phrase, or done a fill and come in. But for him to follow the guitar and bass pattern was very clever, right? Like it was a very,
and the solo section.
It was like jazz.
Yeah, but the solo section too, where he's like, like that's a cool part too.
That's kind of a common piece thing I found, like that. It's not a polyrhythm, but what do you call it? Like, yeah, it's like it's very, very almost polyrhythmic kind of feel to it, right?
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah,
I wonder too if he wasn't, you know, if Fritz wasn't influenced by Ian Pace.
Sounds like it,
because that's like a Black Knight, strange kind of woman sort of song.
I can't give you an honest answer, but I would think so. If I had to guess, I would say big influence, because he sounds a lot like him in a lot of the rudiment.
Yeah, and Pacey was a traditional grip.
Yeah, he was too, and he also his a lot of his fills were triplets and double stroke rolls, were so smooth, and Fritz had the same kind of feel.
Yeah,
so I'd imagine so. It's about the right age bracket, right?
Yeah. So cool. So there's 2, and yeah, you know, you mentioned those parts, and it emphasizes the musical parts. It makes me want to listen to them. So yeah, that's what it's all about.
No, I agree. That's the aim of, you know, you could be 2 things as a drummer. You could be a timekeeper, which is Phil Rudd.
Yeah.
But that's, trust me, the ultimate compliment, like the ultimate keeper.
Nobody.
Great, great, perfect, solid pocket feel, and good. He knew when to lay back and he knew when to step forward.
Yeah.
Or he can be, you know, a creative, like Stuart Copeland put in a lot of fills and stuff, but it works. In the you know, Fritz had a good marriage of both. You know, he was a rock solid drummer, because Helix was an arena rock band at the time when he was in. You know, he knew you had to keep it solid in an arena, right?
Yeah.
Like Kiss, keep it solid, stupid, you know.
Yeah.
But he also had enough chops and flamboyance to be able to throw in the odd thing that would still transfer to 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Because you do little especially the hard rock music with these blaring marshals and stuff going, and you're doing little left hand, especially with the grip of it. If you're doing little left hand ghost notes and stuff, it doesn't necessarily transfer over a huge PA system.
It's lost in the it gets lost in it.
But he picked parts that were jazzy and unique, but heavy, if that makes sense. Like the pushes instead of light little. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Dynamics were great,
Yeah, he played for the song.
Yeah, absolutely. But he also put a bit of himself in there too, right?
Yeah.
Which I admired about him because it was a very unique approach to drumming.
Yeah.
I found. I had the parts, right? And then, like I said, in the end, I just went with studio versions because he was so many unique versions of the live versions I was given. It was impossible to memorize all that stuff because he would change it around so much. I'm saying that in a complimentary way. It was cool. Like I'm more of a just listen to the album, chart it out if I have to in my caveman charts for rehearsal. But yeah, just what can you say, right? I mean, that song is a great example, Animal House of Fritz at his finest. Yeah. The things that he shined on, I was getting shined on. The pushes and pulls and the feel and the shuffle, just amazing.
Yeah. So what's next on your list?
Well, I was going to save it to the end, but we might as well get it out of the way. Rock You, of course.
Yeah, I mean the signature Helix song, right? And
not only that. Sorry, my cat's running wild on. Sorry about the background noise. He's
That's
new.
All right.
Actually, today's his 2-week anniversary. He arrived 2 weeks ago today.
Awesome.
He's a little peeved with me because he likes to run across my desk where we're now chatting. So he's a little peeved at Daddy for not letting him creating havoc in the background. So yeah, I mean, Rock You. Without being distracted, sorry. It starts with kick snare for those that don't know. Like
yeah, and that's a song that people expect to hear the way it is on the album.
Yeah,
I've heard it on the radio so many times or seen a video, and it's like you better be playing it the right way.
Yeah, well, exactly. Right. I'll tell you a funny story once before we get into the depth of this about Rock You. I was hired to organize. It only happened twice for 2 different London Knights hockey games, which is regional hockey, but they sell out these games, right? The Knights are a cup, local cup. I don't know nothing about hockey, forgive me, but they're an outstanding team and they sell all the games out, 9,000 capacity, right? So I came up with the idea once. They wanted me to bring another musician out to get the crowd going with "Go Knights Go," which is the chant, right? It's like almost like we were Rocky. It's like "Go Knights Go, go, go." And I came up with the idea. I said, "Well, how do you feel if Brian Vollmer from Helix and I came out, and we could do the intro to Rock You, and then morph into Go Knights Go?" Because then it's just drums and vocals, both of those things, right? Or percussion and vocal. And they said, sure. I did a second one with Sarah Smith, my singer from the Joys. That was more her and I playing songs. But this first one was just Brian and I. So it was funny because they introduced us over the PA, and we were on the back of a pickup truck, and they drove out to Center Ice, and we were all wired up to go to the house system. And I had an electronic Yamaha pad system. So I put in the exact sound, right, from the album. As soon as I went, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Vollmer from Helix. And as soon as I started that groove, people went bananas because they knew.
They knew, yeah.
No guitar chords, no melody, nothing. Fritz's drum part.
Yeah.
So there's that. I'm playing that. And people knew right away. And as soon as Vollmer started, and then I forget how we did it, but we brought it down and then we morphed it into Go Knights Go, Go Knights Go. It was a really successful thing. But it just goes to show you, my whole point with that was that 9,000 people knew, granted they heard the name Brian Vollmer, of course, but as soon as they heard that groove, they knew what it was, and they got off and started clapping.
Yeah.
So if a guy can come up with a simple part like that, like We Will Rock You is another example that can move an entire stadium or arena full of people. Yeah. That's a drummer. That's a powerful drummer, right?
Yeah.
I remember them telling me too, the production on that song, it was in the 80s, about 82 or 83, I think, when it was released, but so it would have been recorded like sometime in the early 80s, 81 to 83, it was recorded.
Well, it came out in 84, so it probably was recorded late 83, maybe going into 84.
Maybe late 82, but yeah, it was definitely recorded early 80s. So thank you, by the way. The Simmons drums, the electronic drums that look like octagons, there's octagons, were huge. And everybody and their mother was using, because it's like, here's the thing, it still goes today with radio. Things like auto-tune and other production methods. It's a current sound. And a lot of times people, radio programmers or the robot that programs for national radio want you to have that a certain sound, a current sound that's popular. Right now, like I said, or in the last few years, it's been auto-tune and things like that. But in the 80s, it was Simmons drums. So even hard rock bands were like adding that. So if you listen to Rock You, it's acoustic drums, but there is an overdub of a Simmons. It's either a tom and snare. Daryl Gray told me it's like 4 or 5 different tracks for the snare alone on Rock You.
It sounds like it.
For the choruses, because they overdubbed a bunch of different drums, different tunings. Now, if I remember correctly, I think he said they took a 4-tom setting on a Simmons drum and tuned it to the key of the song. So it would give that ring, like that sustained note in the key of the song, and a Simmons snare and tuned it to and then an acoustic snare. So those 3 for sure are on there. I can hear them. So when you hear the song start, you hear kind of a note after the initial impact of the drum. That's Simmons drums that are tuned to the song. And of course, Def Leppard and were the ones that innovated that for hard rock bands. Yeah. He brought a lot of pop production techniques in, and Helix jumped right on board, and it worked because it sounds fantastic, right?
Yeah, you listen. I mean, you can tell that that's not one drum kit playing that.
Absolutely.
It's a big fat sound. It works, and it's a production. It's a brilliant production trick, because I mean, I was 10 years old when that song came out, and I didn't know anything about, all I knew was I liked the way it sounded.
It's it sounds cool. Same with the average punter in an arena or at a show or a club, wherever. They don't know. They just know that sounds good. And it does sound good.
Yeah.
And you got to give credit. I was thinking about that time, Pyromania was probably already out.
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
That was the drum sound to have. Mutt Lange was the king of that. A lot of people don't realize if you listen to Def Leppard, he's tuned. It's a Lynn drum and or electronic drums on the Def Leppard stuff. And he tuned them to the toms to the key of the song. So whenever Rick Allen does a fill, it's still melodic because it's still in the song's an A, the tom are an A or relevant keys. Does that make sense? It's amazing. Like you listen, even the drums sound melodic.
Yeah.
So, Helix would Tom to produce that. And grabbing a slice of radio pie. Everybody wants that. That's how you sustain a career, especially back then. Not just touring, but you get a radio hits, right? Radio plays what sounds current, and that was the current sound. But to me, it's held up. And I'll tell you this. Time I saw a video clip of Fritz playing with Helix. I can't recall where it was. It was recently that I saw this. And I'm going to ask Daryl, but I'm hand in my heart, I heard Simmons drums on there. And it was like Sweden Rock or something. So I don't know if he was playing to a track and they had put on the Simmons drums and pre-recorded, or if he was playing a trigger. I couldn't see what he was doing because it was a stadium show, like it was an outdoor big show, but I could hear it.
Yeah.
I thought, holy hell, they brought it back.
Yeah. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. It's not. Yeah, I don't have a problem with bands doing that, especially for such a well-known song that has such a distinctive intro.
It's just a sound effect. It's not.
Yeah, it's a sound effect.
Not a performance.
Yeah, and he's playing. He's absolutely playing. But you're right. It's something that's hard to reproduce.
Well, yeah, and it might have been something. It might have been something the sound man put on too. With technology these days, you can put a trigger on the snare drum, and it'll trigger that sample. And the sound man could be putting it in the mix out front. But all I know is that I heard that sound from the original version, and it was a pretty recent show before he passed. But I remember going, they brought it back because we never did use it. For 7 years I was in the band, it was just kick, snare, kick, snare. I always wanted to reproduce it, But I'm glad they did. So anyway, that was the hooky part to me on that. And that's just one example of being creative and utilizing modern technology at the time and a hard rock capacity. Because yourself, hard rock music's very reluctant to change, and what they do with pop is frowned upon. But there are certain albums that change that.
Pyromania kind of made it okay.
A lot of albums changed, putting in melodic and pop ideas into a hard rock, heavy metal scenario. There's nothing wrong with sounding good.
Yeah. Yeah, Pyromania made it okay to use that technology. It's just, it's like Eddie Van Halen using synthesizers on Jump. That made it okay.
Yep.
So, no, that's a really good point. And another, it made me think of something. When Jason Bonham first started playing with Sammy Hagar in the Circle, they put a live album out in 2015, and of course they do some Led Zeppelin songs. And when the levee breaks, it starts with the original John Bonham drum track coming over the PA.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the people go nuts, and then Jason starts playing to it.
That's very cool.
And I think that's because it's so distinctive and it's so hard to reproduce consistently night after night after night.
Thumbs up to the drummer that can come up with something like that is so distinctive that if the second you hear it, it's a drum hook, like a vocal hook or a guitar hook or like a guitar riff hook, like a My Sharona. Imagine My Sharona without that tom and kick tom snare intro. I know that some of that was Tom Tribute for sure from working with it, but it was also, by this time, Helix started to ascend the ladder and play some bigger shows. And I'm thinking, if I had to guess, that Fritz was starting to realize that simpler worked better in big venues, sound-wise.
Yeah.
So you don't get much more caveman, and I say this in a good way.
Yeah. Anybody can clap along to that.
But it was the right tempo, the right feel. And the second I did it, people went bananas because they know it just works. So I think that at that point in time, it was the marriage of them having played enough tours where they were playing arenas and stuff that Fritz, the jazzier Fritz, the technique Fritz, and the hard rock Fritz were marrying each other. There's Shadow, by the way. He wants the people. So I hope you don't mind. He's
not at all. We're very pet friendly on this channel.
In his spot, so he peeved with me. But yeah. I think that at that point, I would venture a guess. If I had to make a bet, I would say that Fritz had learned. You got to be more solid to project in an arena. I would take a guess that was probably, he was a smart guy. Probably something that clicked with him.
Because it works. And are there any other parts in Rock You that are? I mean, the whole song must be fun to play because you get to watch people react.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But not only that, but my favorite kind of drumming is AC/DC type drumming, and that song is very much meat potatoes, kick, snare, hi hat.
Yeah.
There's a Fritz push, like it was the closest AC/DC drumming I think that Fritz ever got, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was one of my favorite songs to play. My favorite song is the next one.
Okay.
Right. Which is a segue. Wild in the Streets.
Oh, love it.
Absolute favorite song to play live. Now I have to. This is gonna sound funny. I gotta stop someone. We're trying to walk past the camera here. Hang on. Got it. No, Daddy's busy right now. Good boy. Sorry, folks watching it. I'm a slave to it. I'm trying to keep them from walking across the computer. So I have to betray a little confidence here. It's kind of known anyway.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, well, the amazing session drummer and friend, someone I'm proud to call my friend, Mickey Curry, played drums.
Yep. I knew he was credited on Wild in the Streets, and so was Matt Fournette from Loverboy. So yeah, I figured that some of the tracks, and that's not a. Over the years, like I've come to realize that's not a slight on the drummer in the band. It's you want an album to sound as perfect as it absolutely can. And maybe you can speak to this. I've often heard it said drums are very hard to record.
They are. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You can go down to the local bar and see someone that's an amazing drummer, but they might not be able to cut in the studio because they're two completely different animals. But this is not, I think this was more a case of, and I know this for a fact, it's a project I've worked on, producers have a certain sound in their head, especially for singles. Wild in the Streets was supposed to be, like, if you've seen the video, I spent a lot of money on the budget of that video. Very elaborate, crane cameras, you know. I think it was filmed in LA.
It's great. It's a great performance.
So when they know that that's potentially a single, they give it more attention and they put more into it because they want the radio play so they can get the album sales. This is the old school way of thinking. And a lot of times, producers will hear for a certain song, again, especially if it's a single, they'll pull in somebody off the bench and go, listen, it's nothing to do with Fritz's ability or Fritz's musicality or chops. But I've worked with this guy before, and I know what we have a language. He knows what I want on this song. And Mickey Curry he played on the Cult Sonic Temple record.
Oh yeah, Mickey, he's fantastic.
All the notes for years before Brian.
Yes. Yeah,
like the guy's incredible, right?
Yeah.
No, that wasn't Mike Young, so.
Yeah, Mickey played on Alice Cooper's "Hey Stupid" album. That's a great sounding album.
Yeah. He's a great guy. He's a very good friend of mine. He's agreed to do my channel, the Ramble, with that. I've got to get technically more proficient before I interview him. So.
Awesome. No, yeah, Mickey Curry. I mean, that's he's like one of the guys when you talk about rock.
Amazing.
Rock studio drummers and rock drummers live. I've seen Bryan Adams several times, and Mickey always brings it.
Did you know that he did the demos? Oh, sorry, Eric Singer did the demos for the Cult Sonic Temple record.
I did not know that.
And I guess it wasn't quite what they were going for, so they ended up bringing Mickey in. But when they started demoing that record, it was, I'm telling you this for a reason, with Eric, that was on the demos. Did you also know that Frankie Banali from Quiet Riot played on Billy Idol's version of Moany Moony?
I did know that. That surprises me because I always figured that was a drum machine.
Yeah, no, it's Frankie.
It's Frankie.
Hey, I'm telling you this for a reason because all of those drummers, Billy Idol's drummer, Eric Singer, Fritz, all extremely competent players that played on multiple albums, multiple sessions, excuse me, toured the world with success, were replaced by someone else. Not because they weren't good, it just was a different feel they were going for. So if you could be that level, Eric Singer, Fritz, etc., and be pulled off, it's no shame. It's no shame. Yeah. It's the producer has a sound of mine. And I think Mike Stone, Capitol put a lot of money into, Capitol Records put a lot of money into.
It was Mike, yeah, it was Mike. It started with Mike Stone, and I think it ended with Neil Kernan, because they're both on the
difficult guy. A lot of people he himself came forward and said he had a drug and alcohol problem at the time.
Yeah, and Mike Stone sadly died young.
It was difficult, like he would fight with artists,
Yeah.
But Capitol, seeing a success of, the first 2 albums before, like, Razor's Edge and
Long Way to Heaven.
Yeah, thank you. Was building. So they put a lot of money into it. And I think I mentioned this, if you don't mind me saying, for the folks at home. We talked about this on the group, the other channel that we did. The stage set on the video for Wild in the Streets, it's the old April Wine stage.
April Wine. And you watch
painted to look like a brick streetway. Nobody.
Yeah. From the Wild in the Streets cover. Yeah. If you look at the April Wine footage from Nature of the Beast or Power Play tours, you can tell with the ramps and everything, it's the same stage.
It's the same stage set. I saw them. I saw both April Wine with that stage and Helix with it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Funny, right? Yeah. That was the tour that I saw Helix, and I was down front. I was 14 or 15 when Wild in the Streets came out, or maybe 16. Front row, giving them an R, and then I was in the band like 10 years later or whatever.
That's cool.
Pretty mind blowing, right?
It's funny. Just as an aside, when you talked about Mike Stone, and this is a perfect example of this. As you know, I'm a huge Y&T fan. Huge Y&T fan. Mike Stone produced my favorite album of theirs, which is their 10th album, which came out in 1990. And Mike Stone produced it. And of the 12 songs on that album, at the time, it wasn't Leonard Hayes, it was Jimmy DeGrasso, who's a great drummer.
Also a good drummer, yeah. Why
But Jimmy only plays on 3 of the 12 songs. Steve Smith plays on the rest of the album because Mike Stone produced Journey. He knew Steve, and
Steve Smith's the drummer's drummer. He's one of the guys that's just at the top. Journey's always had fantastic drummers,
Ainsley,
fantastic drummers. It's just certain guys that are just drummers, even drummers admire. You know what I mean? But I mean, so it's no shame that he was brought in. And I told Mickey too, when the first time I met him, I said, I'm not just kissing your ass. Your part on Wild in the Streets, that was my favorite song to play live. And he's trying to come in the other side.
I hear him purring.
But no, okay, please.
That's Wild in the Streets is one of those songs that sounds fun to play.
Well, it absolutely is. What I tried to do was take the approach of, I got the board tapes, the board mixes, the live versions. And Fritz played it his way. A lot of fills, a lot of pushes, a lot busier than the record, but cool. I kept some of Fritz's added stuff, but also honored the original version because fans want to hear what they know, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like, there's a little bit of leeway to go a little crazy. Forgive me here. I'm on launch patrol. He looks like he's ready to jump onto.
Cats just do what they want.
Yeah, I love him. But we're both getting used to each other. Today's his second week anniversary. But this is usually his domain, and he's not happy that I'm in it. Nobody, come on, good boy. I know. So so what I would do generally is I would honor Fritz by putting in, okay, let me say this. Mickey played his ass off on that song.
Yep.
But also, there's some really good fills and stuff on the live version that Fritz did that I thought would have worked. So I did them. I can remember a few. There was like a flam fill down the toms. I know people know what a flam is, but when both the drum rings mix down at the same time,
right? Yeah,
there's a slight delay. Fritz did this really cool flam fill down the toms in the live version that I kept because it was so cool. That should have been on the original. But then again, Mickey did a kick-ass version. So that was one of those ones where I got to take 2 parts. One part of one drummer I loved and respected, another part of a drummer I loved and respected, and a little bit of myself.
Yeah.
And throw it in there, right? So it was really fun to play. It was my favorite song live to play.
Yeah. Wild in the Streets is one of my favorite Helix albums. It's, it's either that one or Back for Another Taste, but those are both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah. Did you want me to move on?
Oh, yeah.
Number 5 would be Heavy Metal Love.
Cool. Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons actually in that.
Sounds like there's a tambourine mixed in on that.
Yeah, there's definitely some percussion, tambourine driving it, but it's a very rhythmic song.
Yeah.
Well, the way we did it live, Daryl, I would count off 4, and Daryl and I would come with just the bass drums.
Yeah.
And Brian would do an extended rap over it.
Oh, yeah. Is that on Half Alive? Is that the...
Pardon me?
Is that the version? It makes me the version that's on the Half Alive.
It is the version that's on Half Alive.
Where Brian talks about
whatever.
Seaforth, Ontario.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know what you're talking. You know your stuff.
Yeah.
But see, I loved it because for me, that's my sweet spot. AC/DC type grooves. Sorry about it. 8 notes on the bass and straight 4 on the drums. That's the sweet spot for me. I could do that for hours. You do that at a festival, 10,000 people. It feels like I feel 7 foot tall and bulletproof when I play like that because it's so powerful coming out of the PA. Kick, snare, kick. You're just holding it at the right pocket, at the right feel. When you hit the sweet spot, that's coming out of that PA system. You feel those heads bobbing up and down. It's the best drug in the world.
Well, that and a song like that, as soon as you kick in, dun, dun, dun. Everybody knows what's coming.
Yeah,
So they're
yeah,
excited.
the fans know for sure, right?
And they're going to let you vamp on that for a bit.
And I'll tell you something, like that felt really good. And Fritz, that was a good marriage for Fritz. Of he could play that solid rock beat, but then you get to the pre-chorus, you know, I like a caress of steel. He was doing off-time shots on it was either China or the Ride, the Bell of the Ride.
Yeah.
Which is a funk disco thing, jazz funk disco thing.
Totally.
Which shows you he has some training and some chops, right?
Yeah.
He's mad at me. I'm sorry. It's unprofessional of me, but I love him so much. I don't.
Oh no, this is great. We look. There's so many videos where our dog interrupts us, or I've had Gordon crawl up, be on my head and start licking my hair with his sandpaper tongue.
Well, what did he like? I've got a desk next to the kitchen, a little office space next to the television, and it's like a straight path that he likes to walk back and forth. I feel bad I'm taking away from his he'll get belly rubs and he'll get extra treats, so he'll be okay. I might even give him a catnip. It's Saturday night, right?
Yeah.
But then when it goes into the pre-chorus in that song, it turns into class. That's a classic Fritz move. Take a hard rock, heavy metal 3-chord banger, and then throw in a little twist of something that's almost prog rock. That's Neil Peart did that a lot too. Subdivisions did a version of that.
Yeah.
I remember they listened to that going, because it's not traditional hard rock thinking. And yet it works. It's melodic.
Yeah.
It brings it to bringing a different flavor to the stew, you know what I mean? And just awesome drumming on that song for sure. Great, you know. I guess number 6 would be Hammer Falls.
Oh yeah.
Only for one reason and one reason only. It's just that song just is like a train coming at you.
Yeah.
It's so when it finds the pocket, it's relentless. It's the word.
Yeah. It's quite a
It's just it's just 4/4 though.
Yeah. But the BPMs it's up there, right?
It keeps it there. Just slap in the face, slap. You know, like It's just really powerful live. Matter of fact, when I first joined the band, I was a much younger drummer, and I can recall, you know, I've done tons of session work, and I'm really good with the click track, and I've got a good meter and stuff. But I can remember that song. I get so excited because it felt so good. We'd be playing some festival. I would start to speed up a little bit, creeping just a little bit. And I always knew, because I think the song's in A, it's on an open string, and I would look over there on this left hand would be going like this, like a plane taking off. Which meant you're starting to creep up the tempo, bring it back. And he was right. I was in my 20s at the time. I was a lot younger of a drummer. As I said, I'm not so cool to admit that, I've made mistakes and stuff, and there's a learning curve when you join a band of that stature, right? But it felt so good to be driving it, that it's such an up-tempo song that you, by nature, your adrenaline's going, you're going to kind of pick it up. And I remember him saying to me, okay, find it and stay there. Find that spot and keep it, you know what I mean? The tempo was.
Well, and another thing, and it's completely unintentional. Like it's all instinct, because you're not trying to ruin the tempo of the song, but like you said, it feels good. But then then all of a sudden you notice that Brian's fighting for breath to get the words out because it's so much faster.
Well, yeah, you have to be careful. Drummers, young drummers watching us, keep this in mind. You hit a very good point. The tempo you choose, if you're given that power and responsibility, which it is, everyone's relying on you to be able to execute their parts, picking wise, right hand, vocally. There has to be space for them to be able to, Geddy Lee used to say about Neil Peart's lyrics, they were a little busy. So he'd go, I'm running 2 pedals with my feet. I'm playing, singing, or playing keyboards and singing. And he goes, the lines would just be so wordy, because he had a very, such a smart guy, the professor, he had a great vocabulary, that they would have to prune some of the words and make them into take some words out or substitute different words in. And Neil wasn't always happy about it, but he said, I gotta sing this thing. You know,
Yeah.
you can only fit so many words into a phrase, right? Into a line and a tempo. So if I'm going like this, you know, and I don't know, like it's like, you know, one day I was walking down the street, everybody was saying, you know, you don't want it to sound like that. You want, well, one day I was walking down the street and this coming up top of my head with something.
Yeah.
You want it to fit. You don't want the words to be so wordy that you're cramming the words in there. You know, am I making sense? I probably not.
Yeah, especially early Rush stuff like Beneath, Between, and Behind, and Bastille Day, and it's, you know, Geddy's singing at full strength, full voice. He's playing bass. You know, he's got bass pedals, maybe not bass pedals at that point, but yeah, the lyrics are very wordy. Now that's something that they collectively got a lot better at.
Yeah.
Over the years, and Neil Peart would say, in more recent time interviews before he passed, about how he'll listen back to soundboard tapes and go, oh yeah, Geddy's having to push, I'm pushing there a little bit because Geddy's having to, so he said, I'm very aware of, okay, I've got to work on that, got to pull that back.
Oh yeah, well, you know what, I hate to say it about a legendary drummer, but he, like you said, he admitted it himself. You go back and watch the early live, you can see on YouTube videos, film footage of Rush in the early tours, and the song would start here and it would end up here.
Yeah.
He was just a young drummer learning his way, right? We all go through it. Stuart Copeland was the best and the worst at that. Like, Stuart Copeland had any flaw was that his meter, they call it, which is keeping this song in time, was all over the place, and it drove Sting crazy, and they would have physical fights about it. Yeah, Wild the Streets, here's the fight. I'm sorry, pardon me. Hammerfalls. The funny thing about that, though, is that I learned it actually hits harder when you find the right spot and hold it instead of playing faster. See, people think of heavy metal, they think of, and punk, they think of fast, they think of speed, volume, right? It's true, but it's to feel. Look at the Sex Pistols. None of their songs were really that fast.
No, that's true. They were like da 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 da.
But they were driving.
Yeah, they were relentless.
With Ramones, right? But people equate that with speed. Well, there's not speed. Speed is, you know, venom, and you know.
like live Ramones, right?
Yeah. But you know, it hit harder with Hammerfalls when I found the exact right spot and held it.
Yeah. Not to mention
the
riff, right?
Yeah.
Instead, like you're losing those notes, you're losing the effect of the riff too. It's not just the vocal.
For sure.
Yeah, and then the solo comes.
That was the song I taught that lesson, actually, because that was the one in the early. And I give myself a pat on the back. It was only on 1 or 2 shows that this happened.
Yeah.
Daryl did the airplane thing. Like I said, his left hand, his right hand would be playing open string. His left hand would go up, like an airplane taking off, which was to let me know.
That was his way of subtly letting you know without pointing it, like, hey, like,
without chastising me in front of the crowd.
Yeah.
It went like a plane taking off. The tempo's taking off. It's going, you know what I mean? And no, I'm not doing an Elon Musk, ladies and gentlemen.
No. But no, and Daryl, I mean, you know, a rhythm section, doesn't matter what kind of band you're in, you got to be locked in.
Yeah, it's true. But that's the thing, is people, you realize as a young drummer coming up, especially in big venues where sound can be muddy, and, you know, once you lock in and keep it there, it's way more powerful than playing fast.
Yeah.
Because it's endless, it's just ongoing. You know, it's more powerful, it's more clear through the PA than speeding up playing faster. So that's a mistake young drummers often make, with thinking of in heavy metal, especially in punk, that speed was power. That's not necessary.
It loses once it gets past a certain tempo, it loses power.
That's true, because of silly mess, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like a polka band.
Like yeah. And like you said, you lose the intricacy of the picking, the riff, the clarity of the playing. So it really is an art to playing hard rock, heavy metal music. I know a lot of drummers that are snobby about music, you know, like prog rock and stuff. You put them down behind the kit, they can't play AC/DC to save their lives. They think they can, but they're not playing. It just doesn't feel right. It's not driving right. It's not sitting right because they look down their nose at it.
Yeah.
Well, guess what, pal? I watched you play that song and you're not doing it justice. Even though that same guy can get behind the kit and play Rush.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know,
it's a stylistic thing too, but it's knowing what a song needs.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's exactly it. And yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just as important to be tight and solid as it is to be impress your fellow drummer. It's actually more important, you know. It's more
and Helix, you know,
there we go.
Helix isn't that kind of band. They're just not that kind of. They Helix are not that kind of band. You know, they don't show off the chops. They've got the chops, but it's all about songs.
Well, that's the thing. They were all about unity, about being.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
so your next one, your number 7.
Before Fritz, Brian Dorner,
right,
who was a monster technician of a drummer, like a song Billy Oxygen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's got crazy drumming. That's Brian Dorner. Like it's drumming. We played that for a while, and I just ended up doing my own version of it because I can't, with any decency, recreate his part and do him credit. And I told him, he came to see us once when we were playing it, and I asked him to get up and play it. He goes, no, I just want to watch. So I played it. And I told him afterwards, I said, look, I just did it my own way because I can't play like you. You're such a technician, you know. But you'll notice that when Helix solidified the sound, this is no disrespect to anyone involved, it became more successful.
Yeah.
Like the early albums did have a little bit more of experimental
you're right.
Drums.
They were kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah, talk about it some songs. Then they realize, especially when you get into arena rock, festival rock, keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah.
Oh, are you clawing my couch? Sorry. Did you want? Yeah. So I mean, do you want me to move on to number 8?
Yeah, your next one I could be number 7.
It's number 7. So you're right. Wrecking Ball, Off the Half Alive.
Oh, great song. Great song.
I love Fritz's drumming on that song. Are you playing it? Oh, I thought you were playing it. I was giving you space.
Oh no. I was just going to say that's got some cowbell.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yep. Sorry, buddy. Not only that, but just his. That is everything in the Fritz. All the Fritz ingredients, the Fritz spice rack. It's got a little bit of every Fritz spice in it. That song, the pushes and pulls, the cowbell, it's just a great example of his playing, and I really like that song. I think 10 years earlier, that song would have been a bigger hit for them.
Yeah, I've often wondered, did that song date back, or was that newly written then?
It goes back to, it was actually written. I'll tell you the story if you'd like to hear it. There was a guy that was in Helix when I joined. He would step in and out of the band. I think he's back in now. A guy named Mark Chichkin.
Yep.
From Windsor, guitar player, singer. Super, super talented guy. Super, super nice guy. So he would come in and out of Helix at times. And as I said, I'm pretty sure he's back in right now.
I think so, yeah.
He had a song that he brought to Brian and Daryl. Okay. It wasn't called Wrecking Ball. But one of the lines in one of the verses was, your love is like a wrecking ball heading for a paper wall. And then there was another line. And Brian and Daryl apparently stopped and said, there's your chorus right there. Your love is like a wrecking ball. That's too good of a line to use as one line in a
throwaway. Like it never comes back.
We'll write a chorus around it. And so they took his song and completely tore it apart like they did Give Me Good Lovin'. From top to bottom. He wasn't pleased about it at the time, I remember hearing. But then I remember that after the fact, he learned to love it. But he submitted a song and ended up getting 2 other co-writers on it because they changed it all around. So in financial terms, you're getting a third instead of 100%.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it was a better song when they made the changes. They were right. That was a great line for a chorus. If I can deviate for 2 seconds, I was talking to a friend of mine about producing her demo, and she played me a song, okay? And the first song she played for me, the first line of the first song was, I'll never forget this. It was, baby, I could lie to you, it's true. I said, you should turn that into the chorus, because it's not only rhymes, but it's a hooky part, you know.
Yeah.
You could build a chorus around it. That's a chorus.
It's got that contradiction built into it.
Exactly. It's got all the makings of a chorus.
Desmond Child always talks about that.
Some writers have open minds.
Yeah.
People go, yeah, that's a great idea. I co-produced a country artist named Aaron Allen, and he would listen to my suggestions and implement them. But she didn't in that case. It's a shame because the song didn't have a chorus. I remember this song was working out whether it didn't have a chorus. We could have taken that out of the verse and built it into a really strong chorus for a really strong song. But sometimes people get in their own way. And it's the same with drumming, right? Like sometimes people will let their ability get in the way of playing what's right for the song.
Yeah.
But Fritz never did, though. So like to get back to Wrecking Ball, he was able to put elements of the Fritz chop stuff in there.
Oh, when he's going back and forth between the cowbell, snare, and bass.
Yeah,
that sounds tricky to me. Like you better be on it.
I never nailed it 100%. I always played kind of like 90% Fritz, 10% me.
Yeah,
it's like an off time. Like the cowbells are playing quarter notes, and they're doing these like touch.
Yeah, I can hear like the like.
And he came in tight with exactly. Came in tight. I loved playing that song.
Yeah,
it never really went over that great, which was unfortunate because I thought it. I always remember thinking about that song. That another place, another time. It was like sometimes you'll date a person, I date a woman. In my case, I dated a woman that I remember thinking, looking back on now that I'm older, if I had met her now, we'd be married. But it wasn't the right time. And I've always thought that about Wrecking Ball. I thought, you know what? If I'd have been on a version of it, had been on, like one of the earlier records, the Capitol album.
One of the Capitol albums, yeah.
I think it's a really strong song.
Yeah.
And Fritz's drumming is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good choice. That's a really good choice. And I like the those 5 studio songs that are on Half Alive. I like the production on those. I like
Dan Brudbeck.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get produced by band Buffalo Brothers too.
Yeah. I think it sounds exactly what those like it's bare bones, but it's good. It's nice and clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's funny. Half Alive wasn't live. Like they had recorded some live tracks. Some of the songs weren't live. Some of them were. They brought me in. We did Heavy Metal Love live in the studio.
Okay.
Live version of it, they did. There was something wrong there was leakage, too much leakage in the tracks or something. They couldn't use it on the live album. So we recreated it. We played the live version live in the studio with no overdubs. So it is live, but it's live in the studio. And then they added in a crowd and stuff. If it's True Confessions time, that's the truth.
Well, I bet you that happens more often than not because, you go to enough concerts and you listen back, and when you were there, you didn't notice it. When you listen back, you're like, boy, it really doesn't sound that good. Why does this live album sound so perfect? Well,
yeah.
That's why. They're not going to put out a product. They're not going to put an album out for people to take home and, hopefully treasure for years to come if it sounds bad.
Yeah, that's true. But it's funny because I can remember Helix recorded, they did a show in St. Thomas at a club. Fritz and Paul Hackman were still in the band at the time, or it might have been shortly after Paul passed away, but they were recording live tracks and they were announcing to the audience that if you see microphones around the room, we're recording because there's some microphones around the room to pick up ambiance, room sound, and audience sound, right? And you can pull it in the mix, pull it in and out. And then I remember some asshole was going up to the mics and just drunk and just to be an idiot.
Yeah.
And just screw up the recordings. Like while they were playing, he would be singing along or yelling into the mics, not knowing that he could just be pulled out of the mix. But I went over. I just remember this now. I went over and pulled him down and I say, "Don't do that. These are my friends. They're spending a lot of money here. Don't do that." I almost got into a fight. And I'm a fighter, but I remember that. That just came to me now. But for other reasons, some of those tracks ended up on Half Alive, if I'm not mistaken. And then there were others that they did record them live, but they weren't able to use them. We had to redo them. There was 2 of them. It was Make Me Do Anything You Want, I think. And for sure it was Heavy Metal Love. But I think we did Make Me Do as well on that album.
Yeah, I think the credits to Half Alive say that the live songs were recorded between 92 and 97.
Between,
Between 1992 and 1997.
but that's accurate because it was 97 when I joined, in 97 while we recorded those.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know that they had tried to take some of the tracks from that St. Thomas show, and but I think some of them were unusable, and I think that's why I was called in to recreate them. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So what's your next choice,
Actually,
Archie?
one I wanted to bring up. Ironically enough, I played on the live version of that, but "Make Me Do Anything You Want" was number 8. If you want, unless you're.
Yeah. No. Please. That's a great.
Because it's such a different approach.
Yeah.
It shows Fritz and his ability to be dynamic and hold back.
Yeah.
Very minimal bear drumming in that song. Yeah. It's very faithful to the original.
It is because I mean, being my age, I was definitely familiar with the Helix version, but I remember hearing the Foot in Cold Water version and go, wow, that's the Helix version. Like sometimes, again, it's like they knew when things needed to be changed around, and they knew when to leave it the same. It's the same thing with Dream On. Their version of Dream On is very close to the Nazareth version.
When you play music in front of people coming up as a young musician 6 nights a week, 3 sets a night, you learn what works and what doesn't, what people like, and you will learn what works in songs and what doesn't work in songs. That's why Helix was so good at taking a cover song and turning it inside out and putting in stuff that might work better than the original. And there's not much for me to say about Fritz strumming on "Make Me Do" except that it's dynamic and perfect. Like it's
just right for the song.
Him holding back and just playing just pocket. Like
the last thing that song needs is busy.
Almost all the way through the song. It's that groove. It's that.
Yeah. And people love it. It's great.
All the verses and chorus.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
But the only real change is the middle section, like down to boom.
It's like
and then he switches to the ride cymbal, I think.
But just like they were smart to play that one more to the original, like the original, because the original was a pretty much flawless song. But
it didn't need anything.
No, it did, and that's why I picked it, because it's a good example of Fritz holding back and playing really musically and dynamically, And the video, I was a fan myself. I can always picture them playing in that ballet studio.
Yeah. It was a good choice for them to do at the time, because it was a little more friendly. You know what I mean? Like it's like Rock You was catchy to like the younger, that because Twisted Sister was big and Quiet Riot was big, but when they did Make Me Do Anything You Want, I'm thinking that you probably had older people that wouldn't normally be listening to a band like Helix go, well, this is nice.
Oh, absolutely, right. I mean, and you know what? The elusive radio play and the elusive, I hate to say it, but you wanted to appeal to girls back then too. Like you want that.
You needed, that, and without,
right?
That is not your textbook, quote unquote, power ballad either. It's just a nice mid-tempo love song.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, for sure. Right.
Yeah.
It's just really good version. And I think they did the right thing by sticking to the basically the original arrangement, right?
Well, they didn't go crazy with it doesn't have the saturated electric guitar. There's no point where it kicks in, so to speak. It's all very like clean sounding guitars, and it's a great and I've seen Helix enough times to like as soon as they go into the dun, dun, like we know it's coming and we're ready to swoon along with it.
Well, like the harmony and the harmony guitars in the middle are just beautiful. Like that's one thing. Dorner and Hackman were as good of a guitar team, I believe.
Nobody talks about those guys, but they always played just the right things.
They did, right? And they're both very technical when they wanted to be, they could be really fast players, especially Brent, right? Brent had amazing, freaking amazing chops, you know. Yeah, that's why I picked that though for number 8. That's just, I think it showed another side of Fritz.
Yeah, well, it's good choice.
You know,
So you're number 9.
Yeah, pardon me?
Number 9.
Oh, number 9. Yeah, so number 9. It's you'd laugh at this, but I don't even know if there's a recorded version of it, so forgive me. But we used to do a cover of Tom Jones' Delilah.
Oh yes, there definitely is. It was on it was on B-sides. It's been on a few compilations, but I think it was on B-sides first. Yeah, it's a fun song.
That version with Helix basically was doing the original, sensational Alex Harvey band covered it, which was a band. Alex Harvey was a Scottish musician from the 70s who did a heavier version of Delilah, and Helix basically used his version as a blueprint and then did their own. But Fritz's drumming on that is really cool. And you know, you don't think of Tom Jones or Delilah when you think of heavy metal, but it actually works great.
Yes, it's another good cover choice.
I believe it's in a minor key. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's in a darker key.
It sounds to me like it's in like a D minor or something.
Yeah, I think if I had to guess, I'd say it's in a minor key. It's you know, and the melody and the murder ballad theme, everything about it is just very hard rock heavy metal. It was ingenious to do it. And but Fritz playing on that, there's some really cool
is it like in waltz time?
I'm terrible with time signatures, but it's not. It's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Is it? Would you call that waltz time?
Waltz time, but it's not. He's not playing it. Like strict waltz time would be.
Right.
Pa pa music, as they used to call it in German.
Yeah.
Pa pa. That's waltz time, which is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
So it's a modified
feel. If you're to count it, it had that feel. 1, 2, 3. He took that and just made it like storm forward like a beast, you know, like, and his fills and stuff were just sensational. Just I really love Fritz playing on that song. If this is a live version, if people out there get a chance to YouTube, and if you can find it on YouTube, I was just looking to see if it's actually out.
It's I was wrong. It's not on B-sides. It's on the Rocking You for Over 30 Years, and I think it's also on the counterpoint version of that, which is Never Trust Anyone Over 30. So it's been on a few it's been in a few compilations, and it's out there. Like you can I'm just trying to see what else it's on because there's a lot of comps here. It's definitely on those two. It's really good. Like it's you can tell that they had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure that if you can find it, folks, especially young drummers, give it a listen to. It's pretty cool stuff on there. That's why I was a little distracted. I was looking on my phone to see if I could find it for some references, but yeah, just it's just such a unique version of it. Again, I have to admit that it was based on the Alex Harvey band version, but it wasn't completely the same. They took the idea from Alex Harvey of making it heavier. And then
it's actually not on YouTube, which I'm surprised.
Yeah, Brian loved the Alex Harvey band. They're one of his favorite groups. He liked a lot of obscure music. I learned a lot of stuff from Brian would play stuff for me that I'd never even heard of, And I'm a music fan in the 70s and grew up in a Scottish family. I never heard of Alex Harvey,
I never heard of them until I started reading Classic Rock magazine out of the UK.
Yeah, oh yeah. But that's one of the best magazines. I love that magazine so much.
Me too. So that there's one more song, one more Fritz drum performance, and I'm really curious what it's going to be because there's been quite a lot of cool variety here.
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of them are singles, admittedly, but I'm a man of the people. Like people,
I didn't say pick the most obscure. Like pick the ones that you had fun playing.
Right. I'm that boy too. If people like it, I like it. Which is the last one, which was a single, which was Running Wild in the 21st Century.
Oh.
Yeah. I got it, though. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm about 90% certain that it's a drum machine on the original album version. I think that whole record was done with the drum machine, if I'm not mistaken. But like for budget reasons, and the producer at the time, and as I said about current sound, they were trying to stay current. But I learned Fritz's live version.
It sounds, it doesn't sound as the drum. I think by this time the drum machines had gotten a little bit more drum sounding.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to something like from the mid '80s, it was done on a drum machine. It's kind of painfully obvious. But you are right, and I never thought of this before. But there's a fill that repeats in that song. It's ding dong dong doo dum, which is a hook, right?
I'm almost certain that is a drum machine. I'm pretty sure that the guys told me that record is drum machine. Like I said, for budget reasons, the producer wanted to. It was what was cool at the time, for a variety of reasons. But I liked playing Fritz's live version of it, because it's funny because they would program like guitar players. Never give them a drum machine because they'll always program something that a drummer would never pick.
Right.
You know, and I'm trying to remember, there was a song. Oh, if I may, might even be on the same record. Storm?
The Storm, yeah.
Storm?
First track. Those are the first two songs.
That for sure is a drum machine, because I was having a hard time learning it. It's got this drum part that no drummer would ever. Paul Hackman programmed it. And I remember the Daryl telling me, he goes, yeah, it's a drum machine. I said, well, that doesn't make, like, it works, but I would never play that. And I had a real hard time with it. Daryl goes, just do your own version of it, kind of thing. So when I ended up playing live was different. But that was a drum machine on that song. And that's why I'm almost positive. Are they on the same album?
Yeah, they're the first two songs, The Storm and Running Wild in the 21st Century.
The drum machine.
Yeah, they were both videos. They're both singles.
Yeah. But then I did get a live recording of Running Wild. And I did like the studio version. Don't get me wrong. It was very straightforward.
I love it.
But Fritz, once he got his hands on it, put some Fritz spice again from the Fritz spice rack in there, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know if there's a version out there for people to reference on YouTube. But as a song, drumming wise, I guess you might have to take my word for it. I don't know. He did great on that song. It was again a driving.
There's a live version. I'm sorry, I'm just looking here. There's a live version from last year. Obviously, that's not Fritz. Now there's another one from 9 years ago. That might be Fritz. Boy, there's not. It's funny. There's not a lot of. There's not a lot of Helix on here, which is a shame.
Yeah, well, it's just a thing that he did. I thought we talked about this earlier on one of the first songs on Animal House. The push and pulls that he would do were unique. Like he would put a push in somewhere where most drummers wouldn't, or the average drummer wouldn't, or I certainly wouldn't. And that I think might come from this background of his chops, maybe jazz or prog. I don't know if you like jazz and prog rock, but if I had to guess, I'd say he did, because he would put the shots in that a rock drummer necessarily wouldn't. And Running Wild was the same way. Now I don't know if it was programmed that way by the writers, but live, yeah, he had a version he did that was really good, and I kind of mixed both up. But as you say, there's that theme fill that it's the glue all through the song.
Oh yeah.
The song starts. It starts with the drum fill. It's the drum fill between chorus and verse. It's the glue, right? It's a drum hook,
Yeah. And also I think another thing that kind of marks it as maybe a drum machine, that when it first comes in, because you hear like the vocals, like that kind of comes in.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's reversed. It's like,
yeah, good call. I believe that's what it is. It is probably some kind of, synth pad of a choir or something backwards, and then.
When I remember I've seen Helix. I've only seen him 3 times, unfortunately, but and none of the times
remember it.
were with you. But I remember seeing them on the Bones tour 2009. As a matter of fact, I'm going to post a picture of me with Fritz from that night. And they were playing in a quite a small venue, so I was able to see, I could see a lot. And I think they piped in those background, like they piped it, and then they played to it.
I had it when I was in the band too, because that was one of the songs we used tracks on.
Yeah.
Because of production stuff like that. It wasn't it was keyboards, Make Me Do Anything You Want, we would use
that too. Yeah.
The choir sound and keyboard sound. And that there was only only like 3 songs or something in the show that had backing tracks. And that was one of them for that reason, right?
Yeah.
But the live version that's out there, if it's out there, I hope it is. If you listen to the middle 8 of Running Wild, there's a key change, and then as time goes on,
it goes to halftime.
It repeats itself.
Yeah.
Before that, there's a little section they do. It's that
yeah.
But in the live version, Fritz put a bunch of really busy drumming in, but it was actually really cool. So it was like he put fills in between each of the shots, which is on the studio version. And I honored him live by recreating that, but my own version of it. But I remember doing it because I respect Fritz, I mean, like it was an honor to be the guy that replaced him.
Yeah.
It really was. So I wanted to be respectful of my choices, you know what I mean? And do pay tribute to what he contributed to that band,
Yeah. So there you go, folks. 10 Helix songs.
He was a one of a kind.
Go ahead.
So I never find another like him. He was a one of a kind, He was
and my experience, just as a fan, met him a couple of times. Great, no ego. Just
put people at ease, He was going out. I've seen people come up to him and fanboy out, and he just like, hey, want a beer? Like, take it easy, and crack a joke, and just calm people down, and make them comfortable in his presence.
Yeah.
You want to hear a funny? This is funny. I remember Brian telling me when they were on a tour with Quiet Riot, Whitesnake, I believe.
Yeah, like 84. Yeah.
Whitesnake, Quiet Riot.
Yeah.
And that's for Quiet Riot. They were with Quiet Riot when Quiet Riot was #1. They were on tour when that happened. So Helix had a tour. They had an old school bus that had been converted into a tour bus. Like the back third was for equipment. But then they built 2 lounges. They built bunks. It's just an old bus from hell, they called it, right?
Yeah.
But I said, I remember Brian telling me the story. I think it was like they'd come out after the show, and there'd be a lineup of girls parked outside of Helix's old shitty bus. And David Coverdale would be like, "What's going on over there, mate?" And there'd be all these girls looking for Fritz.
Yeah.
So the other bands got smart, started coming on to Helix's shitty bus to party.
Yeah.
Because that's where all the girls were. He was just a very, and he was a single man at the time. So I'm not saying, this is all with due respect to Tracy, his widow. And I say this with a smile. And it's in Brian's book.
I was going to say that this sounds familiar because I think
he was a bit of a ladies' man, right? But he was a prankster. The women loved him, and he'd go out and play in this jockstrap, only a leather jockstrap with suspenders, right? Just a great showman. The big mass of blonde hair and the whip motion with the snare drum with the left hand. He bring the good thing about playing that way is you can kind of twist your wrist when you bring it down. It's like a whip. It's like cracking a whip. Gives it a lot of power, right? It's just a very unique individual. I love him. He always made me feel really good. I would get nervous when he would be at the shows.
Yeah.
Or if he came around, because he was someone I admired growing up.
Yeah.
Still do. And I was playing his parts. And he was always very, very, Archie, you did great. It sounded great, man. And just always made me feel really good about my place in the band. I'm not, by anyone's stretch of imagination, I'm not the most technical drummer in the world, but I would I know enough technique to get the job done. And I always paid tribute to Fritz's presence and role in the band by trying to recreate his parts as best as I could. And I hope I did you justice, buddy. That's all I can say.
I mean, Fritz was a showman. He was entertaining to watch on stage, and even in the videos, you can tell, like, he had a lot of fun doing. And yeah, great from all accounts. Just a great guy, and it's.
You're right. I mean, can I tell you a quick story, if I may?
Yep.
Brian telling me. Actually, Fritz told me this one. So they did a Canadian tour with Honeymoon Suite opening. I thought before Honeymoon Suite was just breaking, I think. And so they're in an arena that some were playing, and that Helix stage set is, of course, in the back. And then there was a curtain backdrop that came down, and then Honeymoon Suite set up in front of that played.
Yeah.
So Fritz could go behind the backdrop and reach his hand through and tap the drummer on the shoulder, right? So he would, it's just like, hey, how you doing, buddy? And the guy's kind of, hey, hi. He's playing in front of 10,000 people. It's his first tour. Fritz is just being Fritz, just being friendly and funny. And that evolved into Fritz one night taking a stick out of his hand while he was playing mid-song. Fritz reached through the curtain and grabbed a stick out of his hand. Now, any professional drummer's got a set. You've got
you got a bunch of sticks
to your right and your left. Most professional, but like a clip-on thing with sticks to the left and a bag of sticks to your right. I would have just laughed it off and grabbed another stick, but apparently this guy got really mad. Then he went to management and complained. And Fritz, like, first of all, it's our tour. Time to grow a pair, And he called him baby. I just remember laughing my ass off because I was thinking most people would be all apologetic and everything afterwards. And Fritz didn't back down at all. He said, you know what? It was a joke. We're out here to have a good time. It was the essence of Fritz's whole thing. Don't be so serious about it. It didn't hurt the song. It didn't hurt the show. No one noticed, And I remember that approach, thinking, hell yeah, he's right. You know what I mean?
And I'm going to say that I'm going to guess that Fritz
drummer and he's a great guy, good drummer.
Yeah, too. No, I was going to say the last time.
You know what I mean? He was really mad about it, right?
But the last time I saw Helix was with Honeymoon Suite, and Helix were opening, and it was Fritz and it was Dave Betts. So obviously they mended fences.
Well, you know what? I mean, I think that they've toured in both. When Helix's fortunes were down and Honeymoon Suites were up, opening.
And it's.
But I remember Fritz telling me that it was he reached out through the curtain and grabbed it. Maybe it was a tour where they opened. I could be mistaken. Maybe it was just the backdrop. But I thought he said they were opening for Helix, but I could be wrong.
No, well, that sounds right, because Helix had been at it for a little bit longer.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive that Honeymoon Suite did a tour supporting them on their way up.
Yeah.
Then this week got big fast. Ted Templeman, who produced Van Halen, got behind. They were signed to Warner's in the States.
Yeah, he did their third album. Their second album was Bruce Fairburn, and the first album was Tom Tremeth.
There might have been. That might be very true. Well, as you say, it is true. It is true. Yeah.
So Tom Tremeth actually produced their first album. So when I hear the name Tom Tremeth, that's what I think of both of those bands.
I'm sorry. Say that again, please.
Tom Tremeth produced the first Honeymoon Suite.
Oh, that's right. And he also produced Helix, right?
So anytime somebody hears New Girl Now or any of those songs, that's Tom Tremeth's production.
Tom would be a good guest for you to get. I can connect you with him if you'd like. He's a good guy. He'd probably do your show. He's got his own podcast too.
Let's keep that in mind for sure. But Archie, thank you so much for doing this. This is a great. And this is a great starting point for anybody interested in going back and listening to the Helix catalog. You could do a lot worse than starting off with these songs. So at this point, what have you got going on now? I know you got your own YouTube channel. You're always working on projects. This is where you get to tell us what you're up to now.
Sure. Well, I've got a small YouTube channel called the Ramble, and I'm at about 1,300 subscribers. I just hit the monetization point, which means I get starting to make a little bit of money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
the goal per se, but it certainly would be nice, you know. It's mostly about my experiences in the past of Helix and another, you know, Buffalo Brothers and Joy's, other bands I've been in. But I want to take it to the next level. I put the feelers out to do something more like what you're doing, which is to kind of interview. You know, I'm very lucky that I've had a lot of successful friends in the music industry, and a lot of them have agreed to appear if I do this. I'm sorry, when I do it. But I have to learn the technology better because I did record an interview a few years back with Darby Mills, the Headpins, a good friend of mine, and we toured together several times. And due to my lack of, you know, I screen recorded on an iPad, and then it got lost. And I wasn't about to ask her to redo it. So I need to get my shit together, pardon the language, on this end with tech. You know, I'm a 56-year-old guy. I've got 1 foot in analog and 1 foot digital, right?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit knowledgeable. But once I get better equipped, I'm going to take the Gamble Ramble more in that direction, kind of what you guys are doing. You and my, you know, our other esteemed colleague, our good friend, is doing, interviewing people, and hopefully, you know, utilizing some of my connections from the industry over the way and developing that channel a little more. You know, I've laid off playing the last few years as the family. Well, first of all, COVID closed us all down.
Yeah.
No choice, right? But within that framework too, there was also some health problems in my family and people passing away and things like that. And the last thing I felt like doing was picking up sticks. But I picked up a new kit and I'm ready to start going back at her this 2025, you know. There's obviously some studio stuff that I got booked, and maybe even get back into production, co-production. And yeah, just, you know, just keep moving forward as I've done for the last 40 years, 1 foot in front of the other. I'm lucky that I still have my endorsements. I'm still with Fabian, still with Remo, Headhunters, Drumsticks, you know, so I'm a lucky man. Yeah.
Awesome. So Archie, thank you so much for doing this. I will post a link to Archie's page. Do check it out, and he's got some great stories with what he's done now, and it's only going to get better. So, but for the most part, you know, let's remember the great Fritz Hinz from Helix. He was one of a kind, and thanks Archie for talking us through your favorite songs from Helix to play, and thanks everybody out there for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you again on Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Go listen to some Helix.